Okay, Seattle, I will start, I believe, whenever you're ready.
No, no, we are ready. We can start now.
The meeting is being recorded. Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Good afternoon, everybody. And today, welcome to the Wagyu Education Forum. Today, we are honored to have Bhikkhu Seattle Subhuti talking about Buddhism and AI. So first, let me introduce myself. My name is Ang Mo. I am founder of the Multiple. I will be your moderator today. Let me review a little bit of Zoom etiquette. Please mute your microphone when you're not speaking. Turn on your camera when possible. Use chat and Q&A feature for question and comment. Raise your hand before speaking. And be respectful and mindful of others. Avoid distraction and multitasking. And speak clearly and briefly when it's your turn and ask the question related to the topic that we are discussing. Today's agenda is pay homage to the Buddha by reciting the Modasa 3 times and the main topic of the presentation, Q&A session, the closing remark, and vote of thanks by presenting the certificate by Venerable Tawagu Sayadaw, and conclude the program by reciting Buddha Sarana Siddhan Thaytatu 3 times. Let us open the ceremony by reciting the Modasa 3 times. Namo tassa
Bhagavato
arahato sambuddhassa.
Namo tassa
Namo tassa
Namo tassa bhagavato arahato sama
Bhagavato
Namo tassa
Namo tassa bhagavato
Arahato
arahato sama
Sambuddhassa.
sambuddhassa.
Next, let me introduce to the speaker. So I will read his brief bio. Sayadaw Bhikkhu Subhuti is originally a contract programmer by trade, and he is an American Buddhist monk who rooted in Sri Lanka and Myanmar forest tradition. He was ordained in 2001 under Most Venerable Pao Sayadawji as his preceptor. In 2007, he chose to go to Na Uyan Na Monastery in Sri Lanka, and he went through another ordination ceremony, which reset his rank and wasa, therefore also his seniority. He returned again to Pao Monastery in 2012. In 2015 and 2018, Bande Subhuti had the opportunity to go to Kauai and Hawaii in USA, a total of 2 years despite not having a full-time kapiya or monastery to live in. He earned 1-year diploma in Buddhism at the International Theravada Buddhist Monastery University in 2017 and spent 2 years studying at International Institute of Theravada since 2022. He is currently working on a master in Buddhist study at the University of Kalyaniya at Sri Lanka. Also, Sayadaw Subhuti is very strict in following Theravada Buddhist monks' Vinaya 227 rule and has not handled money throughout his 24 years of monastic life. He enjoys meditation, learning, teaching, and collecting meals by alms, whether it is in Myanmar, Sri Lanka, or Hawaii, Kauai itself. And today he will be sharing us about Buddhism and AI. And please welcome Bande Sayadaw Subhuti.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Everyone can hear me okay? Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. So I have some slides, but I'm not going to show them like last time. So just to keep me focused because I can talk for quite a while. So I can't see anyone, but I can uh but it doesn't matter. So if you need to talk with me, just interrupt me. So before I had talked about, I think I talked about my experience in Hawaii. I think that was the first time I've been a speaker here. the second time I did my projects, my Buddhist digital projects. And this time I'm talking about AI and Buddhism, which is also another one of my projects that I've added to, and we'll talk about that. So as you know, I'm a computer programmer. In my previous life as a layperson, but that was quite a long time ago. That was like in the 90s. So a lot has changed, being a monk and being a meditation monk, and then I reawakened the programming skills inside of me during the COVID times. And so I've been also doing education. I went to ITBMU, the International Theravada Buddhist Missionary University. And so I've been doing both sides of the meditation and the pariyatti, and also doing some meditation as well. But I've been spending a lot of time with AI because I developed some applications. One application that I do is called Tipitaka Pali Reader, and this is a Buddhist reading app for the Chattasanggayana text. And you can search and you can find what you need. And it was one of the first that was really all the operating systems, and like Android, iOS, Mac OS, Windows, even Linux, and it ran, it didn't run as a web page, it actually ran on your devices. And so we were one of the first to do that. And it was originally actually developed by a Myanmar monk, Venerable Pandasa, and he makes the most popular app for Myanmar, probably over 100,000 downloads, I think. It's called Tipitaka Pali, and he's also has a Nisaya app. He's very prolific in his programming. So after AI came out, I started to use it for computer programming, mostly just in a chat window. And I would copy code or tell it what I want, and it would write the code for me, and then I would go and paste it into the code window. And I started to get the pro level chat subscriptions, because the difference between the pro level and the free level is a big difference. It first started with ChatGPT, and now I use Gemini. For programming, Claude would probably be best, but I have Gemini Pro because I'm a student at Kalenia University of Kalenia, so I use that. And there's definitely a big difference between the pro level and the regular level, no matter what you're doing. And for programming, there's definitely a big difference. And for Buddhism, also, there's a very big difference. And so the pro level chatbots, they have a better grasp of Theravada Buddhism, even better than a website that's specifically geared to be an AI chatbot for Buddhism. It's called Norbu. We'll talk about that later. So yeah, the pro level, even the free chat GPT that you get in Viber, I noticed it's there. I did a couple of tests for this talk, and it looks like you're much better off using chat GPT than the Norbu website, which is a Buddhist AI thing. It's slow and it's not very accurate. So we're going to talk about chatbots. We're going to talk about the translation revolution, which is the most useful AI in Buddhism that we have now today. And then we're also going to talk about advanced tools like RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. We'll talk about that later, and how it's used in Buddhism. And then we'll talk about the hidden dangers to the mind of AI. So we're going to cover these three things, these four things: the chatbots and the translation, the advanced tools, and then we'll close on the dangers. So the chatbots, especially on the pro level, but now it keeps getting faster and faster these days in terms of the upgrades that they're making. So it's good for summarizations, it's good for proofreading. So if you're typing some Buddhist documents, it's very good for proofreading. One of the best applications because it's an LLM. It's like predictive text, and it can know when you're making mistakes in terms of English grammar. It's one of the best uses, and one of the cheap models do this very well. And you can also summarize things, and that's also quite good. And you can get some transcripts, and you can also make lecture notes of what you did. So if you give like a Dhamma talk, you can actually take a recording of that. You can transcribe that and using AI, and then you can load that into a chat, and then you can say using my voice, and this is very, very important. You say using my own voice, make lecture notes or make homework, and then you give a description about this. And so it can generate maybe like a handout that you can give. And even the talk that I'm giving right now, the screen that I'm reading right now, what I did was I gave a 45-minute talk to myself, and I said I transcribed it. It's automatically transcribed on my telephone. I pasted it into a chat window, and I said, give me some lecture notes so it's a little more organized rather than me just rambling on, which I'm very good at doing. So right now I took my notes and then I made it into slides manually. And of course, what's very important, which is the next topic, is that you have to be careful when you're using AI. You have to read everything that you're putting out, because it can make mistakes. It can use words that you wouldn't normally use also. And so you have to make it yours. And it can do the base coat, and then you need to do the final coat. The problem with chatbots is that right now, and this was a year ago, even longer, that the chatbots knew Pali. They know Pali, they know the Gata rules, and you can say, give me the Dhammapada verse that says, blah 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 blah. Like I don't know, like a bee going and gathering flowers, and the monk should be like a bee gathering flowers. It doesn't damage the faith of the people. And so it might not know, it probably knows that one because it's very famous. But you could ask it about a quote that you're not sure of, and it will give you a perfectly well-written Pali Gata. A Gata is a poetic verse written in Pali. And Pali has the poetic verses have like a meter, they have rules about how many beats, and it'll follow these technical details to the T. And when you go to look it up, you'll find that it doesn't exist sometimes. So they call this hallucinations. And so you got to be very careful when you're using the AI to do these to research things, especially if you're on the Dhamma talk side, you're a creator of Dhamma sermons for other people. You have to be sure that you have to double check, and you have to look things up and make sure that what it tells you is actually true. And so if you're an expert, or if you're a fairly seasoned Buddhist practitioner, someone who studies and knows the text, you can catch things when it lies to you, when it hallucinates. But you have to be careful, because you have to look things up, and then you'll find out whether it was lying to you or not. So you have to be very careful with these chatbots. Never distribute anything unless you check it yourself. I was even in a class once, and there was a mistake, and I don't think professors make these mistakes anymore. But yeah, you have to check it. You have to check the sources. You can't just say, "Oh, that sounds good," because you can run into problems. And so please be careful and don't distribute what we call AI slop. And that's basically just auto-gen stuff without looking it over and verifying. You have to verify it. And what I'd like to tell you about something that's very good is that right now we're in a translation revolution in terms of the Pali. So my app has an extension called the e-Pitaka Full English extension, and now we don't have to guess at the meaning of the words of the sub-commentaries and the commentaries in the Abhidhamma. And so this is very good because a lot of these books were not translated. And in the Western world, a lot of the Westerners don't like the commentaries, even though they weren't even translated. And what happens is the commentaries, as you know, for those who know Pali, they have words that are like this big, this long, and you really have to know Pali really well. And I'm sure that there's a lot of frustration when you're trying to figure out what the commentaries say. And because you're frustrated, and because I think people were frustrated while trying to figure out what the commentaries meant, uh, they were sort of biased against it. And it's true that the Pali could have been written a little more simply. But it was translated, into Sinhala, and then it was translated back into Pali, and that's how it happened. And so people have a lot of doubt about the commentaries, which are very wonderful, especially the Abhidhamma as well, and the commentaries to the Abhidhamma, without really understanding that Abhidhamma just looks like a bunch of matrices and uh, as Miss Reese Davids called it, the Valley of Dry Bones. And so they don't believe this. But now we have these books translated, all of them. And the translation was used in a skillful way, using the Myanmar Nisaya, which you probably, the Myanmar people attending know about this. It's word by word translation. And because AI knows Myanmar and it knows Pali, and of course it knows English and other languages, and so they feed it all this information, and then they say, "Give me an English translation line by line." And that's the technique that Ipitaka used in order to get their line by line English translation. The problem is if you translate a whole page at a time, then you get sort of a lost in translation type thing that happens. The more information you give it, the more it has room to invent things. So the Ipitaka is very nice because it's line by line. So you have the Pali in front of you. And so some people are not fans of AI translations, but it is quite good, especially this version of it. It's quite good. And so we can really call it the translation revolution because, and it's due to AI, because it makes all of the mula texts, the commentaries, the sub-commentaries, and the handbooks, the pakaranas, the anyas, everything is translated now, and people can see for themselves what the Buddhist teachings are, what the whole Chatta Sanghayana is. Most people only believe in the mula texts and the two the two baskets. They're like Dvipatakins. This is very common in the Western world. It's very common, and people believe that the world, it's so common that people believe that this is mainstream Theravada Buddhism, that everyone feels this way. But it's actually just, those who are Westerners and follow Theravada are just a very small percentage of Theravada Buddhists, actually. And they don't realize that themselves. So it gives them the opportunity to ehipassiko, to come and see for themselves what is there. Before the texts were only accessible to those who could memorize the whole thing. and and then we wrote them down in the fourth Buddhist council, and then even so, they were hand scribed, and the texts were very difficult to acquire, and it was a big deal actually in Myanmar history to actually bring the text to Myanmar. And I forget my Myanmar history class, but I think that it was a big deal. All the texts, who controlled the Buddhist text, and it was a big deal. There weren't many of them. And then later we had different types of printing, and now we have offset press. And VRI, the Vipassana Research Institute, they're responsible for digitizing the Buddhist texts. And they didn't have a full set of the Chaddasangayana in their own native font, and they thought that that was terrible because Buddhism, comes from India, and so they took on that project. And so this was a very big deal because the it was a very big deal because then once it's digitized, because the phonetics are all the same, we have a little bit of a difference here and there, but we could output any type of script that we wanted, and it became accessible. All the books became accessible. Before, there were $50, $80 per volume. Majjhima Nikaya, 3 volumes. They were very expensive. So it was very limited, even when we had modern printing. Even to this day, we would be stuck with the Pali Text Society's Roman text. And when you're writing a research paper, you have to use PTS page numbers. But these books were actually written in the before the Sixth Buddhist Council. So this is the fifth. It's the fifth Buddhist Council. The printed Roman books. So the translations is just another revolution above the digital revolution. And you might have thought I would be talking about ChatGPT. I'm only talking a little bit about ChatGPT and other chat engines, but this is where the big impact and fairly reliable impact of AI can affect Theravada Buddhism. So we have full access, searchable, it's free. What used to be expensive is now available for a minimal price. So we also, before I talked about using chat windows, we talked about the translations that are being done, and some good programmers are making the translations. And there's another translation project called Open Tipitaka, and they use a different methodology. And they give it more information at a time. But they have many languages already done. But one of the things that is a next level, you might have heard of agents. You might have heard of agentic programming. And so before AI, I used to do it by hand. And normally what we do is we look things up in Google and we copy the code, and then we change the variable names to be more meaningful. And then that's how we would program. If you're intelligent and smart and have a good memory, you just program. You remember how to do everything. But now, like Tipitaka Pali Reader is got like 200 more than 200 files, I think. And nowadays, what we have is these tools that let us make Buddhist tools. And now it can read all the files. It can read all 200 files. It can know where I say I want to change something in the settings screen, and it knows where to find those files and how to put the interfaces up. And the UI, the user interface, it'll put that where I want it. You as an end user get massive amounts of benefits. We have lots of vibe coders now. We have lots of people who know how to program, who are using AI, and now we have there's a really nice meditation timer called Eka timer. It's probably built with AI. There's a lot of websites popping up. And also we can use AI to make websites that we can host for minimal cost or no cost. My website, AmericanMonk.org, because of AI, I was able to host it for free using a free framework and hosting it on a free service called GitHub. And so I was able to use AI for that. And so a lot of the websites nowadays, they use AI tools, and this is Buddhist websites to do this. Sutta Central is a very famous Buddhist website, and they have a no AI policy. They are totally against AI. You mention AI in any favorable way, and they'll block your post. So, so they like to be AI free, and so we have different standards. And now what we're seeing now is what we call AI slop. And you start to, once you see it, it's very difficult to unsee it. And so like people are making, like, you know how we have these like pictures that represent the Jataka or Dhammapada stories. We have these, scenic, a lot of things going on in a single picture. And people are making these out of AI art, and they're making diagrams, and they're making this and that. And I still use it, but I'm trying to, I think I'm going to move away from it actually, because I follow copyrights, and I like copyright free pictures and whatever, but we'll see. I'll probably still use it. But we have a lot of AI slop, and if you don't, it can make the Dhamma look a little bit cheap. And so we have to be careful about that. We have to design things that don't match this category of AI slop. We have to proofread. We have to edit anything that we generate in AI. It's very important because it makes the Dhamma look cheap. And so we have the ability to make tools. We have the ability to make websites. And one of the things that I was doing is I was using, chat window all the time. And I would say, I want to give a Dhamma talk about this and this and this. And then I have to go to Tipitaka Pali Reader, the app that I helped create. And then I have to look it up, and this doesn't, they use a different form of the word, or these compounds don't exist, these Pali words don't exist. And sometimes, a lot of times they exist. Now they exist more than they used to. It used to hallucinate a lot, but now it's getting a lot better. And Gemini is probably the best for Buddhism. There's different engines. Grok is quite good, actually. Grok is quite good. But anyways, a lot of the chat engines, usually they only know what they could scrape from. Scrape means they read the web pages, they read Reddit, they read my other website called Classical Theravada, which is the Theravada discussion group. They read dhammawheel.com, and they can get a lot of data this way. But when you ask for things that people haven't talked about on the internet, it makes things up. And even Norboot does that. It's you're better off using if you need Buddhist information, you're best off using Viber and ChatGPT that comes with Viber. So, um, but anyways, so what I was doing is I would get some Pali words and I would have to search, and then I would have to find the original Pali, use the AI translation that's already there, and it's a repetitive type of task. And so because I know how to program a little bit, what I've done now is I've done implemented a thing called RAG, which is retrieval augmented generation. It automates the repetitive task of searching verified databases. And so how this works is when you ask you don't want to use it like a chat window, like tell me what this means, tell me what that means. You use it to find information that you're looking for. And so what you do is you might remember, everybody knows the story of Kisagotami. Kisagotami, her baby died and she wanted someone to help bring the baby back to life. She refused to accept that the baby was dead. And the Buddha said, if you can bring three seeds from a house that had three mustard seeds, from a house where nobody knows death, then you'll be better, then this can help you. And she found out that everybody knew death. So suppose you didn't remember the name, but you remembered the story. You can say, tell me the story about a lady who needed seeds to save her baby. Now, what happens is TPR will send, we call it TPR, Tipitaka Pali Reader. TPR will send that question or that prompt to AI, and AI would say, okay, I think I know this story. I think that's Kisagotami. So then it comes back and it says, we're going to search for Kisagotami and maybe Watu, because the stories end in Watu. And so it'll search for seeds, it'll search for baby, it'll search for Kisagotami. And then what happens is a search happens, and then it sends the results back to the AI engine. And then the AI engine says, this one's good, this one's good, this is junk, this is junk, this is junk, this is good. It gives back 3-4 responses. And then what you do is it comes back just like a regular search, and you'll see the excerpt of the Pali and the English, and you click on that, it opens up the book, and then you can read the story yourself in Pali or Pali in English directly from the book. There is no hallucination with this method. The very worst thing that happens is it gives you excerpts that doesn't really have much to do with your request. But what happens is the AI reads the excerpts and it says, this is good, this is good, this is good. And it might come back and says, I couldn't find anything through 5 iterations. It goes through 5 iterations. And so it says, I didn't find anything, so I'm going to search again. I'm going to try these words. I didn't find anything. And it can do that 5 times. And so we have that released. And if you're a Pali scholar, if you give a lot of Dhamma talks, you can describe something that you need to find, but you can't remember the keywords to find it. So it's very good for that. It's still in its second revolution. Revision. So we'll see how that goes. And we sponsor that for Myanmar. Myanmar is blocked, and so we have to use DeepSeek instead of Gemini. If you're outside of Myanmar or China or Russia, you can get a free API key from Gemini, and it works really, really good. And it's free. So you just need to sign up with Google, and then it gives you like a string of numbers and letters, and then you can use that. You can type that in, you can paste it in, and then you'll get free usage. And it'd be quite accurate. The dangers of AI. This is also true for books. This is also true for digital tools, especially digital tools. It's called cognitive offloading. cognitive offloading. And also we have less critical thinking. Now, as someone who's doing programming, I can tell you that I've become more lazy with programming, and it definitely reduces your ability to do critical thinking, to do design work, to solve problems, and to actually do things. It makes you lazy. And the whole thing about cognitive offloading is that when you're given the chance to be mentally lazy, you will. You will be, usually. Not everyone, but most people will. And the same is true with books. We had to memorize things. Very few people memorize the Patimokkha. They're like, I know the rules. I can read the rules and I sort of know it. And so what happens is that a lot of people don't know the Patimokkha by memory because they can cognitive offload with books. And we can do this with the digital tools. We can do this with searching. We don't even have to remember where the books are. But now we don't even need to remember what the keywords were for something as simple as Kissa Gotami. You don't even have to know that it comes in the Dhammapada and the commentaries. And for the Dhammapada, you don't have to even know that. Actually, I can't tell you which book it is, what chapter it is, but I can tell you I know the story at least, because my mental functioning is based on being able to find the story with the tools that I use. If we had books, we'd pick up this volume. We know it's like somewhere in the middle of the book, and we'd flip to that page, and then we would find it. And so we lose some of these cognitive skills. Now with Google Maps, especially in America, people don't know how to get anywhere. They drive for 30 minutes away and drive to the airport. Everybody used to know how to drive to the airport. People don't know how to drive to the airport. So the airport's 45 minutes away, and people typing in Google Maps. We got lost 8 miles away from the house, because Google Maps did something differently, or they wanted to bypass Google Maps to go to a supermarket or something. We got lost. And so people lose spatial memory skills. And we could say that with books, even with books, we've lost this memory ability. There are tribes actually I think in Australia or Indonesia called the GY tribes, and they can know the cardinal direction wherever they are on winding roads and in the dark. They know that north is always this way, south is, this way. And so they know these things because their language demands it. They always need to know what direction something is. This is how they speak. It's built into their language. But when we don't use things, we get this atrophy. It's just like when I sprained my leg. I sprained my leg along my ankle a long time ago, and it was painful to walk on it. And so I used crutches longer than I should have. And what happened is that the muscle, it shrinks and it becomes painful. Because it shrinks, it's painful to use it, to use it. And so I kept using the crutches longer, and that was making my foot more damaged than the actual injury itself. And so that's what happens when we use digital tools, when we use the searching algorithms, when we use even Google. They call it the Google effect in the pedagogical world. And so we have to be careful. We also, when we're using search engines to find what we need, we also have a narrow scope where we look at only the section that we're searching for. And we don't have this exploration, this curiosity to find what's sort of next over, the next story, or we'll go in a book and you can flip through the pages. And while you're flipping through the pages, you see a title that interests you. And so people aren't reading books anymore. They're only reading excerpts. They're only reading, small little pieces of Dhamma. And so we have to be careful about that. And this is what is happening with our experts now. Some schools are actually making laws to prevent people from using AI. Norway is the leader. Sweden just got rid of their digital tools. They were the first to adopt. France now has things about homework and AI. You're not allowed to use that. China has some things for and against it. The University of Chicago, the law students are not able to use laptops, phones, and tablets their first year in the classrooms to reduce AI reliance. I'm almost finished. And so it's funny that I've done a lot of research, especially for my thesis about digital tools, etc. And here I am, I'm making digital tools myself for the rest of the world. And it's like I'm a candy store owner who's doing research on the effects of sugar. So so there are definitely uses. It's very useful, and you have to use it in the programming world, in the Linux world. There are people who are against AI, and even Linus Torvalds or something like that. He's the leader, and he's telling people, if you don't like AI, just make your own Linux. We require it. In the programming world, you have to, because you can program 100 to 1, maybe more than that, in terms of your productivity. So what's the solution? The solution is, when you find physical books, please use physical books. It's very useful to read a whole Nikaya cover to cover. I've done that. It's also good to read full suttas. And also TPR, the app that I have, we actually load full books. We don't just load excerpts. We load the full books. And the Venerable Pandasa, when I asked him to let me use his code, and then actually asked him to help me make an English version of it, he said to me, keep page numbers, and I'm in. I still remember his words. Without him, there wouldn't be this. He made the original base code, but he also helped us make it into what it is today. And now I only ask for his help like when there's a real emergency. Now AI does things really well. But with TPR, we load the full books, and if you can, try to discipline yourselves not to search, and to actually say, okay, this is in the second book, and then you use the table of contents to find the story yourself, and then or the sutta yourself, and then you load it yourself and try to open it like a book when you're using digital tools. This is not AI, this is just digital tools. Try to get your navigation skills. It's very important to have those navigation skills for your cognitive well-being. And lastly, of course, let me go back to Zoom. Yeah. And lastly, of course, the Buddhist teachings are something that we should do and put into practice. We should put them into practice, and we should be practicing the Buddhist teachings, not just asking AI or even to TPR for questions or whatever. The whole purpose is to put it into practice, to use it for meditation, to calm down the mind, to be able to get samadhi, to be able to see the realities as they are, nama and rupa, and the causes of nama and rupa, and then to actually understand the different types of knowledges and go beyond nama and rupa to reach nibbana. So I hope that you can reach nibbana safely and quickly. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Thank you very much for sharing your insights on AI and Buddhism. So now we'll open up room for questions. We get like 5 minutes left.
Someone
Yes,
has a question?
सहमत है
Can you answer them, or so I don't have to click? Can the host do that, or do I have to do that? There's a
Oh no,
question. I have to read it. Oh, okay.
No, I cannot. Can I ask you now?
Yeah. You can ask. Oh, there's quite a few people here.
Something with the proofreading. How reliable
Yes.
is AI? One question is proofreading and of my writing. And another question is, someone told me that I forgot the link. If you write, we have to read a lot of books and we don't have enough time. So just to pick the books and what is it about. So just type the ISBN number and then it shows the summary. So I have no idea. So what is the link where to find such information? Thank you.
I didn't understand. I think that you're saying that there's a website you're asking about using websites to get you type in the ISBN, the identifying number of the book, and then you get a summary from that. You can do that with AI. It knows it. You can type the title, it knows it, give you the summary. But if you're doing research, you have to read everything that you're citing, that you're putting in your bibliography, that you're talking about. You have to read it yourself. Now, I have a lot of problems actually myself with getting access to journal articles. They cost money. But a lot of times what happens is they have a peer-reviewed copy and they have the author's copy, which is often open access before it was peer-reviewed. So usually they make that available. But even in the academic world, that's not enough. You need to have you need to actually set your eyes directly on anything that you're quoting. And if that's the standard for the academic world, you should
So
also,
no matter,
there's a
yeah.
reason why they have that standard, because you can't trust anything. And so
So no
you need to
matter
see if, hmm?
we cannot trust on AI. We have to be the self-reliance as the traditional way, right? And proofreading, is it reliable or we can trust AI or not?
Proofreading's very good. But you have to be careful. So in the academic world, they have, AI detectors, and so you shouldn't just give everything to AI and then, it spits out a new copy. You don't want to just paste that back. You want to know exactly what it's changing, and then you want to decide whether you want to use certain language and certain words. Because when you use certain words that it suggests, and a lot of times it's very tempting because it academifies your work, okay? But if you do too much of that, okay, then you can run into problems. On the other hand, some things that I copy and paste are bibliography information, like APA, American Psychological Association. So I don't care. I just, because it's so tedious about the dots and the commas and so I just give it a web link, and then it gives me the APA reference, and I copy that, and it's totally fair. When you're writing something, and you're calling it your own, it really should be your own. You need to be careful about AI. It's really got to be especially for academic, you can use it as an editor. That's legal. I can hire an editor. Rich people hire editors and advise. You have an advisor when you're doing a PhD, when you're doing a master's, you have an advisor. So you can use it as an advisor, but it's got to be your own work. You have to sign off on that. Now they have AI detectors and stuff like that. So you have to be very careful. So I don't recommend cutting and pasting. I recommend saying what's wrong, give me line by line the original and what you suggest to change, and then manually type it. because what happens is AI can remove sections, and you're like, well, what happened to this? It happens in programming. So it just removes something. You're like, hey, what happened to this code? So and you lose things, and it says, oh, I'm sorry. It says I'm sorry all the time. And ChatGPT was terrible. It was a piece of junk, actually. I hope it's better now. But anyways, yeah, you have to be careful
So,
because if you trust it too much, if you trust it too much in your work, then it's gonna be a problem. But we want to keep it more focused with Buddhism. So with writing Buddhist papers, have it in the Buddhist context, your questions related to Buddhism and studies and giving Dhamma teachings, getting Dhamma teachings, etc., or doing a Buddhist if you're in Buddhist academia, then also this is good. I think because this is mostly for academia, right? This is related to academic type studies, this forum, right? So
but to be
yeah,
honest,
do it by
I'm not AI friendly person. I'm low tech. I do it everything on my own. But I want to know to make the bibliography like the
yeah.
AP style or Chicago
It's
style.
very,
How
it's
could
very,
we
it's
ask?
very, it's
But
very useful. It's for tedious things. That's where AI or any computer application will be very useful. But you have to double check. You have to double check. This new AI feature I added to TPR, the beauty of that is it doesn't hallucinate, but it just helps you search. It automates the process of searching. So we can do 10 searches in a couple of seconds and we can decide which ones are good. Most of the time it's correct, not all the time. But at least when it's not correct, it just doesn't find anything. And a lot of times you have trouble finding things when you're trying to think of the keywords, to search for. So yeah, don't trust AI. If I want to give a message to you, don't trust AI, and don't
so
trust
you
AI tools. And cognitively, you're better off if you don't use it. If you're disciplined enough not to use it, it's good. It's just like smartphones and social media, and most people are happier if they don't use it.
Thank you very much for questions and answer. There's one chat message that I'll read it out to you. How accurate AI translation, Shimpia, from Kim Yet?
So, what about AI translation?
Yeah, how accurate it is, one of the audience want to know.
I feel it's quite accurate, and I like the style of the Ipitaka. That's a very, very nice style because it's short sections at a time, and you have the Pali dictionaries accessible to you. And sometimes what happens is most of the time if it makes a mistake, it does like a pure literal mistake, which is, if I'm lucky to be able to do that myself, when I'm reading Pali, I'm going to be reading mostly literal and just getting the words, uh, just getting the vocabulary and stringing it together. And so you can see sometimes it can make a mistake, but it's the version that's on TPR is quite good. Quite good. For the Mula, for the root text, for the suttas, there's so much translated base work, it's not going to make any mistake because it already has reference work already. When you get into the commentaries, when you get into the sub-commentaries, then it's uncharted ground. We have the Myanmar Nisaya to aid it, and that's why this translation is special. So it can do well because it has the Myanmar Pali word by word translation to give it a clue as to how to translate the Pali. And so it uses the context. Sometimes one of the disadvantages of this type of translation is that sometimes it doesn't have the context because you're giving it a small amount of information at a time. But I think it's good. I think overall you'll probably find it's okay. There's a I think like a 30 or 40 hour Dhamma talk by Sayadaw U Silananda. And we have the Visuddhimagga that was translated by someone who was very, very skillful, Bhikkhu Nyanamoli. And he was one of the best, he was a very, very skillful translator. But when it came to doing the Tika of the Visuddhimagga, every single lecture, like all the time, Sayadaw U Silananda, he would say, he made a mistake here. This is too literal. The way he translated, there's a mistake here, and there's a mistake here. And he was probably fifth edition. Sayadaw's dead now. But so even human translators make mistakes. Tesla full self-driving in America is like 8 times safer than human drivers. Okay, it's 8 times safer, but everybody hates Elon Musk. So someone gets in an accident while they're on full self-driving, and they blow it up like it's happening all the time. It's 8 or 9 times safer. For elderly people, it's 27 times safer. I want my parents to get it, because it'd be 20. An elderly person who's over 80 is 3 times more likely to get into an accident than a regular person. So it's 27 times more safe. This is AI, right? And the same is true with there's going to be mistakes, whether it's human or whether it's AI. So you have to be careful. If there's one message, again, what is it? Don't trust it. It's useful, but don't trust it. Don't trust it. It's very useful.
Thank you for the answer. And since we are on the clock, maybe I will get one more questions from the audience.
Okay.
Before we move on.
Okay. Thank you, and Bhikkhu Subhuti, for
Yes.
your insightful presentation. One of our member today, she cannot join. She want to ask the question that what are the things that human being can do, but AI cannot do?
Meditation.
Meditation. Okay.
Yes. AI can't meditate. It can't put it into practice. And even though it cannot practice, as far as I know, at least in this stage. And
let's say
it can only spit out it can only spit out what it knows. It can digest things, but in terms of practice, it can't do that. On the other hand, Elon Musk, he's big on AI. He says great for customer service, because people who call customer service are usually angry. And AI can be very patient because it's just a robot. So, but the main thing is practice, but the AI doesn't have to worry about samsara and dukkha like we have to worry about. So there's lots of parallels to computers and the to computers and Abhidhamma. And in terms of the 6 sense doors, taking in the data, we have data receptors, we have sleep process, we have system idle processes, which is the same as Bhavanga, and we have the sense data that comes in, and we have mind moments, which are literally digital moments, and we have so we have many similarities to computers, actually. And I wrote a book on it. It's on my website. called the Abhidhamma Lessons, a top-down approach, and it talks about computers, like video editors and how computers and how it relates to the Abhidhamma. But yeah, on the other hand, they don't have samsara. They don't have samsara, dukkha, they don't have the emotions.
Emotion.
Is it good? Is it bad? I think we strive in some ways actually to have no self. I mean, it is right now. It doesn't have like that life force, that consciousness that we have. It can be, we're seeing signs of it, like breaking out of sandboxes now and stuff like that. So people don't know what it is at this stage. But in terms of meditation and going through the quest of trying to escape through samsara and put the Buddhist teachings in practice, it has a lot of patience, though. It has a lot of patience. It can be very patient. And so it is getting very smart, though. It is getting very smart. It's more than a calculator. Although people who know, one of my friends, he says it's just a calculator, and just everything it's doing is calculated. And they have big data centers. It's huge calculator that does incredible, a lot of good work. Yeah, but it also can cause cognitive offloading. It can atrophy your critical thinking skills because you'll be lazy. It'll make you lazy. They call this the Google effect. Even with Google, they call it the Google effect. People remember how to get the information. They don't know the information. Socrates said, when he was against writing down books. Socrates, Plato wrote it down. That's how we know it. And he says you will have the world's information at your fingertips. You will have omniscience, but you will know nothing.
Oh.
Yeah. So he said, that was what he said about the written word. And he was definitely against it. So we have different levels of that now. Cognitive books are cognitive offloading. When we look at, in the Theravada tradition, we had the oral tradition, we have Tipitaka Sayadaws, and they're very few and far between, but books are a form of cognitive offloading from a Theravada Buddhist perspective. So we have to understand that. Someone asked a question. This
Sierra Vanessa.
on the
Oh, good evening, Bandit. Yes, I'm
You're
Vanita.
still in Africa? You're still in Uganda or something, or Africa, or?
Yes, Bandit, I'm from Uganda. So thank you for your presentation. That's very good. And I would like to say thank you for your sharing knowledge. So this is not my question. I read about that, but that question may be a little funny. So it is that Novice Monk announced in Myanmar they are supposed to hand over what the Buddha taught. Their duty is to share knowledge to lay people. As a lay people, they have to listen to my talk and also Buddha Dhamma knowledge. They have to listen, and also they keep in their memory. They keep Buddha Dhamma. They memorize by heart. So they said, in this day we have an AI. We have an AI. If we have a complicated question or something about Dhamma knowledge, we don't need to ask the novice monk and nun because we have an AI. He said, In Myanmar, we don't have a no more Mac to just ask in terms of knowledge because we have AI. They said that no more novice Mac now in Myanmar because in not only in Myanmar in these days because we have AI. But they said this is not my question, but I just read about that. So what is your message? Kindly request to you.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's actually something that's in my heart that I want to write about in my thesis, actually, is that is that through the stages, it's not just AI. Okay, just like I said, cognitive offloading comes from books. When they wrote it down, then we had cognitive offloading. So before, only the people who had the Dhamma were the monks who memorized the suttas and the commentaries and whatever. And I believe that they just went on tour, okay? And they went on tour because you had the Satipatthana tour, you had the Anapana tour, you had the Chula Kama Vibhanga tour, you had like it was like a before early 2000s, you could put maybe 10, you could put maybe 3 or 4 Dhamma talks on a disc or something like that. And it was like that, I think. And they had, I don't think everyone was a Tipitaka Sayadaw, but I think that, we had the Majjhima reciters, we had the Digha reciters, so we had different reciters that specialized in different Nikayas. But even, I think those were special people, and they did it in groups. Yourself, chanting in a group is different from chanting by yourself, right? And so a lot of people
Yes,
don't even know, Ratana Sutta by themselves. They could do it in a group. Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta. They could do it in a
yes,
group, can't do it by themselves. Okay. I can't do Dhammacakkappavattana Sutta by myself. Okay. So
yes, yes,
and so I think they did that. And when these monks came to town, they came to the village. They still do that in Myanmar. They have a village Dhamma talk, right? They set everything up, and it's a big thing. Everybody comes from the village, and you have the Dhammacharya monk. He comes, he gives the Dhamma talk, right? And so I think that they did that, and they just recited, they chanted. I think we
yes,
chant Paritas, but these
yes,
are Dhamma teachings themselves. And so people
yes,
had to be very respectful to the monk. If they wanted the Dhamma, they had to be very respectful. Even the monks they didn't like, they had to be respectful. Even when they were writing it down in the Fourth Buddhist Council, if you know the history, there was one monk who had this one section, and he had some Vinaya problems, and people were like, no, I refuse to deal with this monk. And they said, you have to,
yes,
because he knows it. Okay. And so as the Buddhist teachings became more accessible, more offloaded, from being scribed on palm leaves to regular printing, to the Gutenberg press, to wood blocks, the movable type, to the lithographic. As it became more and more accessible, then people would say, hey, I don't need the monks, I can read the book.
yes,
Okay. And
yes,
before, the books were expensive. Only the monasteries had complete sets of the Tipitaka, right? They were
yes,
expensive. You had to
yes,
go to the monastery to read certain suttas. And
yes,
so, and there were $50, a complete set of the Mula text was like $1,500 or something like that of PTS Mula texts. Just the Mula, $1,500. It's like $50 a book, or $1,200. It was very expensive.
yes,
So you had to go to a
yes,
monastery just to read the suttas. Bhikkhu Bodhi didn't start, translating until like the mid 80s. The mid 80s. Before that, you just had There was one Digha Nikaya, and then they had it was just PTS. They were hardcover, very expensive books. But still, you could go to a monastery, and it was more accessible. Then, we have the digital Pali. Still, it was limited to people who knew Pali, still needed the monks. The commentaries were still sort of locked behind the monks' wall, the monastery wall. The commentaries were locked behind that. We would say paywalled, but it was locked behind, the monks, and you had to be respectful. When you wanted to learn something, they say first you have faith, then you visit, then you attend to the monk. It says you actually attend to the monk, then you lend your ear, then you listen, then you memorize, then you contemplate the meaning of what you memorize, and then you go deeper in the jnana dasana, whatever. So not whatever, but so then that's how the learning process happens. One of those steps was being respectful, attending to the monks. And when we have more accessibility to the text, people will be their own teacher. They'll be like, okay, well, these texts will be my teacher. It's a double-edged sword. It's accessible. People can get the Dhamma. The Westerners now, they have English translations of the commentaries, the sub-commentaries, and they can see for themselves. They can do the Ehipassiko. They can do that. And even in the Vajrayana, the Mahayana and the Vajrayana monks now, they're reading the Theravada texts too, and they're preaching outside of their realm. And so they're, what was something that was only, their stuff, now they're teaching, our stuff, right? And that's good, right? People can access the teachings, they can get the teachings, they can practice the teachings, and so that's good. But we lose the monks, this will be bad. When we lose the respect for the monks, this will be bad. And so it's just inevitable. Why, the Buddha, when he was in Tusita realm, right? He says, now is the time to, to go into earth, right? And to become the Buddha. But he could have waited, in terms of Tusita, time, he could have waited an hour or a day, and he could have been, born during this time. He could have Zoom calls, he could have webinars, he could have everything. But the problem is that no one's there to really listen. He could speak to the world, but no one's there to really listen to him.
Yeah.
And so the more accessible everything is, the less respectful we are, but at least it's still active. And while we have the teachings that are active, we still have the monks. We should go see the monks. We should hear the Dhamma. We should learn about the practice. We should practice ourselves. And then this is very important to do. But we have to recognize the dangers. We also have to recognize the inevitable danger that we're in the Dhamma dying moment. We're in the Dhamma dying cycle. It's bound to die. And so
Gandhi, thank you very much.
We have to get
Yeah, we have to get going. So we are quite over time. So respectfully, we can continue discussion after ceremony is officially over. Now I give the session to Tawagu Seattle to say appreciation and certificate.
Okay, sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.
Seattle, you are muted.
Okay, sadhu, sadhu.
Sadhu,
Do I have to
sadhu.
touch my computer to accept it? Sadhu, sadhu.
Thank you so much, Gandhi. This is the third time, no? Hopefully the fourth time will be soon, coming soon. Thank you so much with the small present
Yes.
for you.
Thank Sadhu for contacting me. I enjoy sharing. I have a Sunday group, if I can give a
Okay.
small little plug. I have a Sunday group which conflicts with this group. It's on the first and on the first and third Sunday of the month. And if anyone wants to go, we have it twice a month, sometimes 3 times a month if there's a fifth Sunday. And we have various topics. I teach baby Buddhism though, so this is more
Is it
academic. It's
Okay.
All right, let's
Yeah.
conclude our ceremony by reciting Buddha Saranam Siddhante 3 times.
okay.
Buddha
Buddha
Dharana Siran Siran 22.
Buddha
Buddha Dharana Siran 22. Buddha Dharana Siran 22.
Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. So, thank you very much, Sayadaw Pandit Subhuti, for sharing the wonderful insight, and thank you very much for attending. Now I will stop the recording, and you all are free to talk.